Oh my gosh, we are live. Holy cow, this is going to be awesome. This week on Easy to Read Deep Thoughts, it's unique. We have Carolyn Carlson as our special guest, and Carolyn and I, we submitted Carolyn's the first prime contractor that gave my company a chance. So, in terms of unique kind of situations with guests, my level of respect, gratitude, appreciation for Carol is abnormally high. Right? Like, yep. Okay, well, I'm going to dive right into it. Carol and I were talking just a little moment ago, and I kind of shared the essence, the basics of how I structure the show. I'm going to start with an introduction, and then we're going to describe things a paragraph at a time. And my ask to Carolyn was jump in. If you have a thought, share the thought. Like we're utilizing the format of the newsletter as just a guide for conversation. The ultimate goal here is good conversation. So that variable trumps every other variable. All right. I am Jonathan Geyer. Holy cow. I'm the host of Easy to Read Deep Thoughts. Background, I had the opportunity to help implement a health information exchange for the state of Minnesota. And I did this while stationed in the St. Cloud VA. In that opportunity, well, we were the most successful in the United States 3 years running. Some of what we did here in St. Cloud was incorporated into the $10 billion Cerner contract. Yep. In that opportunity, I was able to sit down and drink a cup of coffee with 30 some odd thousand veterans. And I am going to bring that experience up every episode. Why? Because it shapes how I think. A lot of what you're going to see me express here today comes from all these veteran interactions. It rocked my world. It broke my perspective and then rebuilt it into this, my current state. Secondary variable, I coach a boxing class. I've been doing this for 20 some odd years. We started posting our classes on YouTube, thinking similar to church service when our class filled up and we couldn't take in any more kids. We posted online and figured at least they could watch. Well, that has turned into a big deal. We are crossing 380,000 views. Yeah, we're averaging 10,000 views a night. It's gotten awesome. Okay, that's my spiel. Floor is yours, Carolyn.
Well, Jonathan, good afternoon or good morning. I'm honored to be with you, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate this opportunity. I'm in Virginia. You're in Minnesota.
Yes,
it's colder where you are than where I am, so you get brownie points for that. And I have a government affairs background for many years. I have been in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area for quite some time. And I've gotten to be a resident who is thorough about knowing what's going on around my world. So I have a tendency to stay on top of what's in the news and what the headlines are. I know a lot about federal government agencies, which is how I got into federal government contracting. And so I think we're going to touch on that a little bit. So I have a woman-owned business. It's a small business. I have a deep government affairs background. And we recently won an award with the U.S. Census Bureau about 3 months ago that I'm very proud of. What I will say is, for small businesses, the first one I think is the hardest one, and I think you start to build on top of that. Now we're rolling that into other opportunities and trying to leverage that as much as possible. But I want to cite one story. So my firm is in the GSA program, 8A Stars 3, which is a best-in-class vehicle. And there are task orders that come out where we're looking for partners. And the reason why I'm in the federal government business is the federal government is interested in a vast knowledge of expertise and experts. And so there was an opportunity about a year ago where Jonathan expressed interest with his firm, CX, about chasing a specific opportunity. Do you remember this, Jonathan?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was using that. I was referencing that story in the promotion for this.
So I want to tell this story because I think it's kind of important
Yes,
for
ma'am.
those that
Yes,
are
ma'am.
out there in the listening audience. So Jonathan was wondering whether to chase this one opportunity, which was his firm's wheelhouse. And my recollection is you kind of hesitated. And then I kind of went back to you, and it was approaching the deadline date. And these task orders have a very short window of opportunity. either you submit it or you have like a very short period of time in which you have to respond to the deadline. So I went back to you, Jonathan, and I said, hey, Jonathan, this is going to close. Do you really want this? And you said, I think I want to chase after it. And so at the last minute, you provided the information. We were the prime, you were the subcontractor. And then as it turned out, we didn't submit it. Is that correct?
No, I was missing. Oh my gosh. Well, what the primary error was, oh my gosh, I'm going by memory here. They asked for it to be formatted in multiple ways, like not just one. There was different versions that they asked for, which I assume was like department dependent. And I did not reformat the different versions. I only submitted the one version to you.
So
it was incomplete. Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, in retrospect, now that you know, and now that I know what we both know, I would have pushed you more on the early end to try to see if you could have been organized to reread it in order to submit it, in order to chase after the opportunity. And the reason why I say that in retrospect is you're going to be really lucky if you win the first one. And if for some reason there is a mistake or an error and it is submitted, you want to have a debriefing to learn from that so that you know what the errors are and the mistakes are, so that the firm can be more polished and not make those mistakes the second time. Because what happens in life is we get smarter with mistakes. And your government doesn't know that you've made 3 submissions before, and they don't know that you've made 3 mistakes before. What you want to do on that 4th opportunity or that 6th opportunity is turn in a polished submission that has no errors, that is in your wheelhouse. And so the reason why I'm telling this story is chasing after government contracts is like driving on the freeway, and you're in a lane and there's opportunities that are coming left and right. And so when you see a space that is your wheelhouse and you need to change lanes, you need to seize that opportunity and chase it, because that opportunity may not exist ever again, or it may not happen again for a while. So I want to bring that to your attention. And I don't mean to pick on you, Jonathan, but what I'm trying to say is this is about making ourselves better. And it took 5 opportunities where we didn't win, and I know what our mistakes are, but I submitted a 6th one, and guess what? We finally won. And so what I counsel to the listeners out there is know your wheelhouse, chase after opportunities that are in your niche. You can find that in the government arena. You have to manage your time effectively. You have to chase after specific agencies that are in your core wheelhouse and pursue those opportunities. Do your homework, be diligent, come prepared. If there is an outreach session for that agency, look at the forecast and walk into that outreach session and try to get a one-on-one for 5 minutes and say, hey, I want to learn more about this one opportunity. We're interested in pursuing this. And oh, by the way, we have expertise in XYZ. We do this in the commercial area, and we would love to potentially be a partner. And so you have to leverage your introduction of your knowledge, provide the past performance. And then the third part is recite the certifications. Those are the least important, which is whether you're a veteran-owned business or a women-owned business or a HubZone or an 8A. That closes the deal. But if you do your homework and come across as organized, dressed to success, and be thorough, which is why I wanted to talk about this theme, you will eventually hit pay dirt. And that's the positive message that I'm trying to convey.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. I was active listening, but one of the things that popped into my head, I believe you've seen what Randall Wimmer and I are doing, trying to build up the industrial base. You just touched on that, and I didn't premeditate our episode speaking to that national level pain point, but holy cow, your message just did. right? Like the government needs people to take that leap, right? And it's a scary leap. Like it makes sense that my nervousness, part of what you just spoke to, our previous story, like I was scared. I was worried. I was overthinking stuff, nervous, and it was all dumb psychological variables, but it had a physical impact. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure how to express. Go ahead. Yeah.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to say is let's not overthink things. Seize the opportunity, try to submit it, be organized. One of the things I have a tendency to do, and this is just me personally, and I don't know if people feel like this is comforting to them, is whenever I see a submission, we have to make a decision whether to go for it or not. And when we go for it, we press on the accelerator. And so what I have a tendency to do is knowing that there's a deadline impending, I write it up, I take a break. The next day I come up with a new thought and I go, oh, I want to add that into this. And then I take another break. And then 4 hours later, I go out and do something else, or I'm like buying groceries and I go, I want to add that to the submission. And so it's one thing to do a submission crash course, but the way that I work is I come up with different pieces of ammunition at different times. And so I write the bulk of the proposal. And then as I step away from it, I come up with 1, 2, or 3 pieces that I want to add to it. And then I add those bullet points, which is you want to drive home the point in your submission so that it looks polished and presentable and it's not haphazard. And those are the things you learn over time. And so that the takeaway that I want to provide is when your submission is polished and has as much ammunition as you can put into it, you're going to have much better success. And so the digressing story that I will tell is when I went to college, we were required, and there still is a mandatory requirement to write an essay to pass to graduate. And so when I was a senior, I had to write an essay and I failed the essay the first time. One of the things they drilled in us in English class as a freshman is introduction, 3 arguments, and conclude. Make sure your conclusion closes out your 3 arguments. So that's drilled in me in my presentations. So in our proposals, it's introduction, who we are, why we're chasing after this, 1, 2, or 3 specific past performances or reasons why we are a viable option for this opportunity, and then you close it out. And so in the opportunity that we won, I was randomly taking a break and I cited the president's executive order. And I said, hey, the president has this executive order, which is 13985, which is to support minority businesses. And I threw that in there. And that was part of our closing argument. And there were other pieces of ammunition in there. And I sprinkled it in with the specific agency, the agency's mission. And so I know that our proposal was read because it was custom tailored for them. So anytime you can write a submission that is tailored and parallels the agency's mission of not only can we solve this, but we support what your issues are, or we are a solution to some of your ongoing problems, that's actually going to get more mileage.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of that national level, that higher level, the patriotic kind of pain point to bringing on contractors, I think you just, in my perspective, in my mind, you just touched on a major one. I would like you to elaborate a little bit more. Let me think if I can remember how you quoted it. Oh, actually, this is what I was thinking. The structure of the proposal, that ending the, oh
conclusion?
My gosh. There you go. You just mentioned referencing specific points like this. I'm a visual thinker and I was picturing it as blocks. You mentioned this is how I was picturing it, different blocks. And then your conclusion, you were assembling these different blocks. I personally think that's a big deal. And I think that might be that perspective might be one of the barriers to entry for government contracting in general. Like that was a big deal when I first learned that's how it works. You take this good idea, which would be like finding your customer's pain point, and you take this one, which would be emphasizing the set asides based in the president's management agenda. Oh, well, the president's management agenda. You take all these blocks and assemble it as this is how I'm visually thinking about it. But elaborate that on a little bit more. The strategy behind the closing argument, the conclusion of that bid. If how I describe that is, if you catch what I'm talking about here.
Well, here's the way I'm going to answer your question.
I like it.
My firm only chases after opportunities where we think we have a good chance of winning. So we don't chase after everything. Okay. And so we're talking about a handful of specific opportunities. And on the one that we won, it was a source of sought last December, a year ago. Okay. I looked at that and I said to myself, oh, my eyes are really big. We can do this. And so I kind of wrote up the source of sought and I said, hey, we're highly interested in this. And because of your specific instructions, we are the only solution. We are uniquely qualified. Okay. So that should kind of get the attention. And that was the introduction. So what I did was I did bullet points of, this is why we are the only solution. You cannot find these products and services elsewhere because of my firm's expertise, because of my background, because we have teaming partners, because we are the only way in which you're going to be able to resolve this problem. Okay, that's why I jumped all over that. Right. Then that source of sought turned into, it went past the RFI and it went to an RFP stage last spring. So when it came to RFP, then I did some research and I was talking around and I said, hey, you need to give me a price. And somebody who I was talking to said, hey, we've been chasing after this for a long, long time. They're finally getting off their, proverbial horse and they want to chase this. And I said, yeah, I need a price. So what I did was I said, I don't know who else is going to chase after this. So we want to be very competitive. And then we're going to, at the very end, we're going to use our certifications. So the message I'm trying to convey is you want to find opportunities where your firm is uniquely qualified and the differentiator solution. And if that means specific teaming partners, one advantage is if you team with large business has to meet their quotas. And so you actually have to say in your submission, oh, by the way, we're teaming with Northrop Grumman or Lockheed Martin or whatever. And this is what they bring to the table. But we're the prime. And so they report to us and the large contractors need to hit a small business quota. The other option is if you're a small business, for example, you team with other small businesses and you submit it and say, hey, we're the prime, but we're teaming with small business A, which is woman owned, small business B, which is veteran owned, small business C, which is hub zone. You can hit all the boxes with all of us because, we can help you with your certifications. And what you say as a small business, if you go the small business route, is you want to be able to say, and this is your ammunition, we are small, we are nimble, we are quick, we can adjust, we can pivot because large businesses cannot do that as easily. And large businesses also have a pricing that they need to go with because they're a large business and they have to cover their overhead and their employees. So with small businesses, if you have the right relationships with the CEOs, you can say, hey, we want to be competitive. Give us your best deal. And oh, by the way, you have these other certifications or your GSA or whatever. Put that in the pot because the more ammunition, and that's the word I want to use, is not bullets, but I mean like leverage. The more that you can provide to showcase that your solution is a unique differentiator at best value, you have a strong shot of getting in. And so I have a tendency to support small business because I've been small business my whole life. I grew up as small business, but I will team with large business as necessary. So anyway, you want to be flexible, yet be able to pivot and adjust and provide as much ammunition as you can. And you have a third or second person, have your team read it to make sure the submission doesn't have any errors in it and doesn't have any mistakes. And then you just go for it. And if you don't get it, Jonathan, then you ask for a debriefing. You learn what you do wrong. You pick yourself up, put a Band-Aid on, and then you go and you run to the next opportunity. So
Yes,
anyway,
ma'am.
that's kind of where I come from.
Carolyn, you have $1 billion business in my mind.
No, I don't.
Oh my gosh, we are in our last 10 minutes here, and there again, I don't care if we read this all. I'm hoping you don't care either. I'm gonna read this first paragraph. That first bolded bullet point there is actually the part I care about the most. It's kind of the only part in this whole article. I want to take the last 10 minutes to describe that part. So let me read it. Why is the theme to this week's newsletter and LinkedIn Live. My special guest for this coming episode is Carolyn Carlson. Carolyn and her company DataClear was the first prime contractor to give my company a chance as a subcontractor. And actually, we didn't touch on that part yet. That's a big deal. That is probably, I would say that is that first barrier to entry as a sub, is to find a prime to give you the chance. Like that is the first. God, I'm picturing the never-ending story with the oracles. Well, whatever. That is the first barrier to cross, is to find a prime to give you that chance. My respect for Carolyn runs deep. And you could speak to that last point, but this is the part I care about. Why? Why did you start government contracting? I know nothing about this. You and I have never talked about it. If you've mentioned it in our Government Contracting Academy cohorts, I don't remember it. Why did Carolyn start doing this? And as a woman, that the disadvantage. Well, actually, maybe I don't want to go down that road, but like everything, you didn't have a lot of support, or I'm not sure how to say that. It was a hard path, and you chose to do it. I empathetically walking in your shoes. Why did you choose to do it?
That's a good question. So
yes,
I've been around the block, and I've been through different career paths, and I have a tendency to know federal government agencies. The federal government has a tendency to buy almost everything. And so it's vast and it's wide. And with that knowledge, I have learned a lot through my expertise with members of Congress. So I know my way around Capitol Hill and the agencies. So why did I get into this? Because if you use your industry expertise in the federal government arena and you manage your time effectively and you use strategic and critical thinking skills and know how to navigate the federal government bureaucracy and find opportunities, you can make a difference. But for small businesses, it's not just opening a small business and planting a flag and saying, I'm open. You actually have to have a network, have teaming partners, reach out, read people. You want to trust people that you feel can take your firm to the next level. You want to partner with people and with areas where they have their expertise. And so I actually have a tendency, because I'm in online communications, you want to cast your net as wide as possible. So you have a network of people that know who you are, which are your business cards, people that you meet, your customers. But I actually like to cast the net wider than that, which is a network outside. And then I try to get them to opt in so that they can get regular communications. So the reason why I'm in government contracting is because I believe we have a specific niche. I like to surround myself with people who are smarter than us. We like to leverage our differentiators, and we like to seize the opportunity. Because if Jonathan, we are both ISO certified, which is no risk and low risk. When you present that to the government and say, we are a no risk option on top of our differentiators, and we can provide this service because you have this expertise and you're really good at it, and so we're going to be accountable, you take those opportunities and you leverage them. And that's not only an opportunity for success, but with the federal government, the opportunities could be potentially great. We're talking large. And so, you want to, instead of biting the large elephant, you want to do one small pieces at a time. So I reached out to you for a specific opportunity. And I think if you were to find another opportunity, we're going to get ourselves up. We're going to polish it. We're going to submit it. We're going to make sure that it's proofed, and you're going to get better at this. And so that's what we're going to do. And that's the takeaway from today's conversation.
Oh my gosh. As a boxing coach, this feels similar, going by the vibes. Like, government contracting does feel like boxing. I tell my students to go in there and get beat up. Who cares? The hard part is getting in there.
Getting up is getting you back up, and putting a Band-Aid on it, and you don't make that mistake of doing left or right or whatever, but you fix it. And so that contract that we won was not our first one. It was like our sixth. Okay. And I've been at this for years. And so what I'm trying to say is, if you get your first one, you're really lucky and you really know your stuff, but it may take the third or the fifth or the sixth, and you have to get yourself back up and you have to go back at it. So we learned from that first opportunity, but the next one, you need to go for it. You need to seize it. We need to find it and then accelerate and then see if that one comes through. And if it doesn't, we need to fix that mistake so that we don't make the first and second mistake on the third one that we submit. And that's how you get better.
Fast iteration. Oh my gosh. You and I didn't talk about this portion ahead of time, but how you're describing that, your perspective on like somebody new coming into government contracting is totally aligned with how I'm saying it. Get in there, fail fast. The faster, blow up rockets until you fly to the moon. Like I don't know a better way to do it, or a way that increases the probability towards success more than just doing it until it starts to work. 10,000 light bulbs, one of them works.
Well, one of the things I would say is it's a challenge for small business because they have less options available. And I will digress by telling you, I went to a housing and urban development outreach session. I think it was earlier this year. And I sat next to a woman and I introduced myself, and she introduced herself. And she said, "We work with mobile labs." And I said, "You're at housing and urban development." I said, "You're at the wrong agency." I said, "You need to go to HHS." I said, "They're in the building, the 2 buildings over. They have monthly outreach sessions. They also have an outreach session every year at National Institutes of Health, and you're at the wrong agency." So what I'm trying to say is, there are some people, when you go to these outreach sessions, there are people there who are starting out and they don't know their way around. But when you become polished and credible, and help other people, you just don't know if those people are going to help you out years down the road. But you always want to be able to read people and be able to network, because you never know who that person is sitting to your left or your right. And so, Jonathan, we're going to help you out because you have a specific niche and you're very good at it, and you have a vast network. Those are your positives, and that's what you bring to government, and that's what we have to showcase to government on your next submission.
Oh my gosh. That was cool. We have about 1:30 left. Speak to this last. I'm just going to read this next bullet point, because there again, I am personally curious. What was the hardest part so far for you, Carolyn's journey, like in government contracting? What beat you up the most?
I'm going to say that it's majority a man's world, and it's tougher for a female to get credibility. And so I've been in the workforce for almost 45 years. And what has sustained me is a network of people that I know based on the different chapters in my life.
Oh my
so
gosh.
That's kind of helped sustain me. So people build their reputation on services and products, and sometimes there are opportunities that fade away because of the economy, and so you have to be challenged by getting up and meeting people and reading people and finding new opportunities to network, and that's what I've kind of done.
I think you just touched on it, but I'm going to ask again. We're in our last 30 seconds here. What is the one takeaway to distill? Like, what is the one gift you could give our audience listening now?
Be positive, be kind, and try to do your best. It may get frustrating at times, but try to have an upbeat situation, and it may eventually will get better. And if not, surround yourself with people that will help you sustain the situation until it does get better. Because I always like to be positive.
Oh my gosh, it makes all the difference in the world. Holy cow, we are at time. Oh my God, that was an awesome episode. Holy cow. Let me close it up here. Carolyn, thank you for coming on. This was super cool.
Jonathan, thank you. Happy holidays. I appreciate the opportunity. It's so kind of you to invite me to your podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this was awesome. I guarantee my audience loved it.